Hello students, welcome back. In our last video, we did some really cool things. We built out our world for Factory Frenzy. We have a moving conveyor belt with boxes that we can hopefully soon deposit items into, and we have our player that can switch between the different conveyor belts moving left and right. This video, we're going to do some awesome stuff too, but this time it's going to be sort of behind the scenes. See, our game is going to need a way to manage or understand what state of operation it is currently in. So if we think about the types of states our game might exist in, when we begin the game, we might want to show a start screen. So that would be a start state. And then when we hit enter, or maybe some key to indicate that we want to play, we'll transition away from the start screen and we'll show that world that we just created, the conveyor belt, the player. We should be able to control it. That would be the play state. And eventually, if we're not good at the game, we will lose the game. And then we would transition to show a lose screen. So the game world would go away, the player would go away, and we'd show a lose screen. And this would be a lose state. And so the scope of this video is giving our program the logic, the understanding to know how to swap between those three states: start, play, and lose, and show the correct screen. Now we're going to call those start screens and lose screens overlays, because they are going to sit over our game world. Our game world is always going to be there, and then we'll put a start screen over it or a lose screen over it, depending on the mode of our operation. So let's head to the computer screen and we'll dive right into lesson number 2. So I have lesson number 2's starter file open right here in vscode.dev. I am going to minimize this file here quick and go to my Factory Frenzy folder. Factory Frenzy folder, that's some alliteration right there. And we're going to open lesson number 2 directly so we can see exactly what we're working with. So here it is. And it seems like it is the exact same state that we were in previously. All right, so let's head back to our code. Okay, so I did test one thing. It seems like part of our game is broken, because if I come back over here to Factory Frenzy, the arrow keys are working, but it seems like for some reason I'm stuck on lane 2. W and the up key no longer work. S and the down key no longer work. These key presses where we were checking, let's see, we had a function called key pressed. It seems like this is maybe not operational, and there's a good amount of missions in here that we are going to have to look at to bring that functionality back into our game. But for right now, let's go to mission number 1. So mission number 1 in our mission checklist says we need to add the game state values. Hitting the down arrow, it looks like we are creating a brand new constant called game mode. Okay, so game mode, a constant, this is probably going to be in our, yep, there it is, student edit zone. So this is something that we are safe to modify. So we are going to create an object for our variable here inside of curly brackets. This is very similar to our player object. When we define an object, we define it with properties. So the player had X, lane, and held widget properties, and then we put values 0, 1, and null. We're going to do the exact same thing for our game mode object. I'm going to create 3 properties that represent the states of our game: start, play, and lose. And I'm going to use all capital letters here to clearly state that these are modes of operation for our game. So first, I'm going to create a start property for the game mode object. And its value will be a string, so inside quotations, start. All right, all capital letters. And then I'm going to put another property. I'm going to put a play property, because we're going to have a play mode of operation, a play state, and its value will be play. And then I'll have a lose mode, a lose property, and its value will be the string lose. Now, we're only going to have 3 modes of operation: start, play, and lose. But this system, if it works and works well, and we write it nicely, we could expand it. We could put like a pause state. We could put a menu state. We could put an inventory state. The possibilities here are quite endless, but we only need start, play, and lose for the functionality for what we want in our game. Now, mission 1 is complete. We have this object that we can use to reference the different states our game can be in. But this is a constant. This is something that once we define it, we can't change it. So we are going to need to change our game state, right? We need to change from the start mode to the play mode to the lose mode. So we need a variable that can keep track of the different state that we are in. And mission 2 brings us to that variable. It says, set the current game mode to the title screen. Make the game begin in the correct state. So we are defining a variable here with let which means it's going to change its value over the course of its lifetime. So current game mode, right now it's set to null. Null is just a way to say it's set to like no data. But we don't want that to be the case because we want to set the current game mode. It's either going to be, let's see, start, play, or lose. We want to set it for what the title screen would show. Well, that's going to be the start mode. So how do I set this to the start mode for our game? Well, if you remember, we created an object in mission 1 called game mode. Now look, here's really nice. I can start typing game underscore, and then I only get one option right here. If I hit tab, I autocomplete it. And autocomplete is so nice. It's super helpful. So I could just start typing game mode, and then I get this list, and there's my variable, game mode. I highlight it with the arrow key, and I hit tab for autocomplete. Now, that game mode object has some properties. So a period brings up all of my options. I have a lose property, a play property, and a start property. When we start the game, I want to set our current game mode variable to our game mode's start property. Whoo! Now our game knows that when we run this, when we start right here, we are in the start mode. We just got to do something with that information. What do we want to do with that information? If our game is in the start mode, we probably want to show our start screen or the start overlay. So let's head to mission 3 and we'll begin working on that. We have a function called draw start overlay. So this is down here with all of my other draw functions. I'm drawing my player, I'm drawing my HUD, and now I have a start overlay. Remember, it's going to be called an overlay because it's going to sit over this game window. Now let's look at what we're doing in here first. We call no stroke, which means give me an invisible marker. So when I draw a shape, you're not going to see the outline of it because my marker is invisible. And then we fill our paint bucket with some paint. The bucket that is getting filled with overlay BG color. That's a new color in our color palette. If I go and click on our color palette, I see it right here, overlay BG color. That's in our student edit zone. Now, if you look, that color is transparent. It's a transparent black, 0, 0, 0, with a alpha of 0.65. So we're going to be able to see behind that black color. And then I draw a rectangle with the upper left-hand corner being 0, 0. The width of the rectangle is the width of my canvas. The height of the rectangle is the height of my canvas. So I'm going to start here in the upper left-hand corner and draw a rectangle that's the entire width and the entire height. It is going to sit over my game window. Hence the name overlay. And it's going to be transparent. So I'm still going to be able to see the world behind it. So what are we putting in here? Well, let's see. The mission 3 says draw the start screen overlay. Show the title over the game board. So we want to put the title of our game. All right, so that just means I got to create some text. Well, we've already got some text down here. It looks like we set the text size to 20, and then we say the conveyor never stops. Grab, sort, ship. How long can you keep up? Press enter to start. This is what I would refer to as flavor text. It sort of buys into the mood of the game. And if you notice, each of these text objects are getting placed at an x coordinate of width divided by 2. The width of the canvas divided by 2 puts them smack dab in the middle of the canvas. All right, and then our heights, it looks like we're just taking our height and multiplying it by a bigger and bigger and bigger decimal. So let's see, if we multiplied the height of our canvas by a decimal of 0.00, that would put us way up here at the top. And if we multiply our height by 1.0, that would put us all the way at the bottom. So the decimals in between can position us wherever we want. For example, this would be height times 0.5. This would be height times 0.75. This would be height times 0.25. So we're going to mimic that structure and make our text for our variable, for our title. But there's just one problem. Like right now, the paint in our paint bucket is our overlay background color. So all of this text is going to be that transparent black. Sitting on transparent black, we're never going to see it. So we should probably load up a new paint. So we're going to do fill, and we'll fill our paint bucket with text color. It's going to be this nice whitish color. Perfect. So now we're going to see our text. We should probably also text align. We should call text align because how do we want our text sitting in this space? Well, we're putting our text in the center of our canvas. I probably don't want to put the left side of this text at the center. I want to put the center of the text in the center. So my text align, I'll do center in the horizontal direction and center in the vertical direction. Then I'm going to set my text size to be bigger here because this is going to be the title text. I'll make it 60. And now we'll actually make some text. We'll call the text function. The string is going to be the name of our game. factory frenzy. And I want to position it in the x direction of width divided by 2. And in the y direction, I'll do my height times, I don't know, I'll do 0.30. All right, so I think my start screen is done. So let's go see. Does it show up? Does it show up? Erg, it doesn't show up. And the reason why is we wrote this function, but if we're not calling this function, we're never actually going to be drawing it. So that's a huge bummer. Let's go to mission 4, and maybe it gets us to call our function. Oh, but it doesn't. It looks like mission 4 tells us we got to draw our lose overlay because we have a start screen, but we're also going to have a lose screen when our game is over, when we maybe transition into the lose state. Well, let's see what we're doing. Calling no stroke, so I get an invisible marker. I put some paint in my paint bucket with that transparent black, and I draw a rectangle that sits over the entire screen. We put a new paint in our paint bucket, a white color. We text align center, and get some big old text that says, "You're fired." Ouch, that's a bad message. And then we have smaller text here that says, "The factory can't afford mistakes. Production has been halted." And now we want to draw some restart instructions. So even though we fired them, we'll give them another chance. We're just suckers for second opportunities. So we are going to put some text to try to get the player to play our game again. The string that I'll say here is going to say, "Press enter to try again." And I'm going to put it at an x position of width divided by 2. And a y position, we'll do our height times 0.66. So it'll sit below this previous text. And then let's also show some instructions to go back to the title screen. So I'll say text, press R to return to title. And we'll put that at our width divided by 2. And our height will be times 0.77. So we'll go even lower now. So now our start screen is done. Our game over screen is done. We just got to figure out a way to get them to show up here, because right now they are not showing. Well, let's go to mission 5. Let's go to mission 5. Mission 5 says, show the correct overlay for the current game state. This is exactly where we want to be. If we look, mission 5 brings us to the draw scene function. I've said it once. I've said it twice. I've maybe even said it thrice, and I'll say it a fourth time. I don't know what the word would be. I'm going to go to our default P5 functions. P5, that library we brought in, brings us a setup function, which runs once every time we load our game. And we have a draw function, which runs every single frame of the game. So inside of here, we are calling draw scene. So every frame of the game, draw scene gets called, which means every single frame of the game, we're drawing our background, our belts, our boxes, our player, and our HUD. You don't want to draw the belts? Comment it out. So if I comment that out, watch what happens. Boom, the belts disappear. That's kind of scary. We could just make it disappear. Let's make the player disappear. I get rid of the player. Boop, the belts are there, but no player. Now, we want all of those things. Let's keep them in. In fact, we want to draw even more things in our draw scene because I now have a start screen and I have a lose screen, and those have functions. So I just got to call them. So why don't I call draw start overlay? Tab for autocomplete. How nice is that? And then you need 2 sets of parentheses, open and close, to actually call or run that code. So now I'm going to call draw start overlay. I should see my start screen. Woo! That's awesome. And it sits over the game window. Do you see how that is? And the window is transparent, so we can see behind. We can see our game world still. So that is really, really great. All right. Well, you know what? I've got another overlay. Why don't we draw it? I'll say draw lose overlay. Tab to autocomplete and a set of parentheses to run it. So now I'll see my lose screen. Oh, that is less awesome than it was before because now I'm drawing my game world, and then over that I'm drawing my start overlay, and over that I'm drawing my lose overlay. That sort of stinks. I don't want to draw both of these screens every single frame. I only want to draw them if certain conditions are true. I only want to draw the start screen if we are in the start mode of operation. And I only want to draw the lose overlay if we are in the lose mode of operation. So I have to ask a couple of questions here. So let's ask a first question. I'm going to say if and then we'll put a question in here. And if the answer to this question is yes, then we will draw our start overlay. The question that I want to ask is, what is the current game mode that we are in? Remember, we had a variable that we created in mission 2 called current game mode. We're going to check to see what it is equal to using 3 equal signs for strict equality. And I'm going to check to see if it is equal to my game mode object, so tab for autocomplete, dot, I get access to all of its properties, and I'm going to check the start mode. If that is true, then I will draw the start overlay. Of course, I could ask another question. I'm going to say, hey, if, here's my question. What question am I going to ask? Well, when the answer to that is going to be, I'm going to draw my lose overlay. So I want to ask a question. Let's see, the current state of our game. So current game mode, tab for autocomplete. We're going to see if it is equal to game mode dot lose. If it's equal to our lose property, then it's time to draw the lose overlay. Now, this is going to work, but we can make it one step better, I think. I think we could make this just a little bit better, because if we ask this question, if this answer is yes, there's no way this answer will ever be yes, okay? So if this answer is yes, there's no way this answer will ever be yes. So we don't even have to ask this second question. This second question only gets asked if this question was no. So the way we can sort of join those together is we can say else if. So if and else if sort of joins these questions together. And you can tag as many else ifs as you want in your if statements, in your questions. All right, so let's refresh the page. Let's see what we get. We should only show the start overlay. Hey, there's the start overlay, so that's good. Well, let's actually change the state of our game. Let's go back to mission 2. Set the game mode. All right, so game mode was equal to start, so we show the start screen. Let's set the game mode to lose. Hey, I get the lose overlay. And let's set the game mode to play. If I set the game mode to play, I get no overlay because now I'm in the play mode. Hey, and now I get my upward movement back. So that's kind of nice. All right, but we can't just change the code here. We got to actually dynamically switch the state of our game. So let's put it back to start, and let's go to mission number 6. So mission number 6 finds us in that P5 library's draw function, this thing that runs every single frame of the game. And it says that we need to only update movement during play mode, stop the game action while overlays are showing. If you look, when I refresh the page, we're in the start mode. The conveyor belts are moving. The player can move. That kind of stuff should not happen. Our world should be static until we press enter to start. So we are, let's see, asking a question. Look at that. We have an if statement right here. When we're asking if true. Well, true is a question that is always going to be true. It always says yes here. So the code that is inside of my brackets will always execute. We are always updating our belts. We are always updating our player. We do not want that to happen. We want to ask a question. And when do we want to update our belts and player? When the answer to this question is yes. So we are going to ask, what is the current game mode variable? Is it equal to game mode dot play? Is it equal to our play property? That means we are in the play state. And only if this question answers yes, will we update our belt? Will we update our players? If the answer to this question is no, we get false here. This code does not run. And we just draw our scene over and over and over again for each time this draw function is called. All right, let's check it out. So here we go. The conveyor belts stopped moving. The player cannot move. This is perfect. So now if I hit enter to start, I should be able to transition into the game, and that is non-operational. So something's happening there. I can't actually start the game. So let's go to mission number 7 and see where that brings us. Okay, it brings us back into that key pressed function. So this is one of our P5 functions, right? Setup, draw, and key pressed. Key pressed is going to run anytime a keyboard button is pressed on the keyboard. So if I press enter or if I press L, this function runs. And the first thing we do is we ask a question, if the key code of the key that we pressed is equal to enter. So we're saying, hey, was the enter key pressed? If that answer is yes, we ask a follow-up question. So these are nested if statements. We ask a question, and only if this answer is yes, then we ask the next question. Our next question is, what is the current game mode? Is it equal to start, Or is the current game mode equal to lose? If that is the case, right, if we are either seeing the start screen or the game over screen and we have pressed enter, we want to transition back into the play mode. So let's do that right now. We're going to take our current game mode variable and we're going to set it equal to game mode. I'm going to go down and hit tab for autocomplete, dot, and then we're going to access one of its properties. Let's access the play property. All right, so let's see if that gives us the functionality that we are searching for. All right, factory frenzy. The conveyor never stops, which is funny because it stopped right now. Grab, sort, ship. How long can you keep up? Press enter to start. I press enter, and we are in here. This is really, really great. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I have programmed a debug key right here, the G key, that will force a lose screen if the key button is G or capital G. We ask a question. Was the key pressed that triggered this function G or capital G? If it is the current game mode play? I'm asking nested questions. If that is the case, we are going to set our game mode to lose. So let's lose the game with a G. And right there, we see our lose overlay. How great is that? And so now when I hit enter to try again, notice what happens. My player is all the way over here. When we start, I should start here, but it doesn't. It leaves me where I left off. So if my player's way over here in the top row and I get a game over, when I start back here. I don't like that. I want to reset my game to defaults anytime I enter in the play state. So before we trigger this back to the play mode, we should call a function, reset game to defaults. Tab to autocomplete, a set of parentheses to actually run it. And let's go look. What are we doing in reset game to defaults? Well, we're doing a lot, actually. This is just setting our game back to its beginning situation. We're defining what our lanes are. We're building our lanes. We're setting our player's X property and what lane they should be in. We're building our boxes that we see. So there are our 3 boxes. And we're setting our belt's scroll X variable. So this is all about getting our game back to a complete playable state. By putting that function call here before we transition into the play mode, now when we, let's refresh our page, when we play and we come down here and we die, hit G for game over. If I hit enter, it sets me back to the beginning of the game. That's exactly what we want to have happen. Perfect. We've only got one more mission left. And that last mission number 8, is all about our title screen transition. Because we have said in our overlays, if I hit game over, it says press R to return to the title screen. I should be able to hit R, and I'm hitting it right now, and I see no title screen. So we got to program in this last bit of functionality. We're asking a question here, if, and then we say false. Well, this question is always going to be no. False is always false. So this block of code here is never going to trigger. So we want to ask a question. And when the answer to that question is yes, we want to reset our game to defaults and then set our current game mode to start. So this is when the user presses the R key. So we're going to follow what we have down here for our debug screen. So we'll say, hey, we know a key was pressed. The key, we are inside of the key pressed function. Was the key equal to 3 equal signs for strict equality, R, or was the key that was pressed 3 equal signs for that strict equality, capital R, in case the caps lock was on? If that's the case, we're going to reset our game to defaults and set our current game mode back to start. All right, I think our game state system is completely set up. Let's go test it in its entirety. So here we have the game in the start mode with a nice start overlay. The game is paused because we cannot play anything until I hit enter. Once I hit enter, we transition to the play state. And so now I can play the game fully. I can move around. Everything seems to work. I can play until we get a game over. I'm going to trigger that game over with my debug key, G, and we're going to go from the play state to the lose state. And now we see our lose overlay. I can get out of the lose overlay by pressing enter to go back to the play state, and I reset all of my game variables. Awesome. Now as I'm playing, let's see, I'm playing, I die. Okay, G. I can go back to the title screen with a press of R. So now I've transitioned back to the start state and I see my start screen. I start playing again. I'm having a great run. I get tired of playing, but I don't want to shut the game off. Maybe someone will come by and pick it up. So I hit R and I go back to the title screen. Perfect. So this video here did a great job of introducing the concept of game states and overlays. So we built 3 states: our start state, our play state, and our lose state. And that functionality is going to work perfect for what we're trying to do here in Factory Frenzy. But hopefully you see how designing a small scale system that works well and works efficiently with clean code can easily then be scaled up into bigger systems. There's no reason why we can't add a pause state. When the user presses the P key, we'll set our state to pause and show a pause screen overlay, or maybe a menu or an inventory. Those possibilities are endless. But for right now, I think this is a great place to stop, and I'll see you in the next video.